Hello, Aries. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for July of 2022. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mikos in New York.
And Aries, this month brings the focus to your home life and creativity. Some fun areas, maybe even both together, being creative at home. If you need more guidance about anything that Julie and I have said here, we are available for readings, and we can explain more fully in a natal and transit reading, and you'll find a link for that in the YouTube description below. Well, I want to talk about Ceres and Juno this month. Ceres is traveling along through the sign of Cancer, and we're going to experience something wonderful this month, which I like to call Financial Epiphany Day. That's because Ceres is about themes to do with the things that connect us to the physical world, our physical bodies, and how comfortable we feel in them. Also, the food we eat, and the money that we make to sustain ourselves. And underneath all of that, our deep sense of self-worth. The cycle of Ceres begins and ends about every year and a half when the sun conjuncts Ceres, just like it's doing right here around July 20th or 21st. And so I call this Financial Epiphany Day because this is a really great time to finish up old projects and begin new projects to do with finances that will play out, projects that will play out over a year and a half or so. And Ceres is traveling along through Cancer, so these projects can be intuitive, they can be emotional, they can be projects to do with home. All of these are Cancerian themes. Ceres in Cancer really likes to be retentive with money. And so the fact that this shows up in your fourth house suggests that this is a really good time to refresh and renew and reinvigorate your budget and your budgeting process. So to put into place some really great financial procedures that will help your home life to run more smoothly or help you to run any projects to do with your home, such as remodeling. And then the next thing I want to tell you about Ceres is that on July 23rd, Ceres moves into Leo. And when Ceres is in Leo, I think it's important to beware overconfident spending. I do think that Ceres in Leo likes luxury, and it moves into your fifth house, which really underscores this theme. And so beware of overspending on items that make you feel good, make you feel luxurious, maybe make you feel proud of your appearance, but which maybe won't last or aren't well made or are overpriced for what you get. So watch out for that after Ceres moves into Leo. It'll be in Leo for maybe a month or two, about 2 months. And then on July 24th, another really big thing is happening, which is Juno right here in Pisces is about to go retrograde. And there you see it happening. Now, we've made a video about this. You'll find it in our July news playlist on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology. And you'll also find it on the monthly forecast page for July, during July. And there we explain a lot more about this whole retrograde cycle, how it feels and how to handle it. But what I want to let you know right now is what it means that this is landing in your 12th house. Juno brings a relationship retrospection period, a time for looking back at your committed relationships of the past, both personal and professional. So if you've been in a business partnership in the past, or if you have been married or in a committed relationship in the past, this will be a really good time, and it lasts a couple of months until October. This is a really good time to think back to that and ask yourself how you would like to do it differently in the future, and particularly to ask yourself how you could create better committed relationships in the future or in the present in which you feel a greater sense of spiritual alignment. And that's an especially strong theme for you because this Juno retrograde is happening in the 12th house. You might even very easily feel that any committed relationships you are in right now, and this is really an important statement, so I hope you're listening. Any committed relationships you're in right now, you might feel like they go into a couple of month holding pattern while you feel into this and ask yourself the really deep, heavy questions that Julie and I have put in the Juno retrograde video for you. Most particularly, does this relationship align with my spiritual value system? And do I feel a sense of spiritual alignment with this partner? And if you don't, you might want to hold off on this relationship while you figure this out. Now we're going to pivot. I'm going to throw the ball over to Julia, who is going to talk about Mars, Mercury, and Venus.
Well, hey there, Aries. I've got a few things to tell you about Mars, your ruling planet. It's a planet of action, adventure, activity, and it starts the month in your first house of self, where it spent a lot of last month too. And when Mars is in the first house, I mean, that is a high energy period for anybody. Mars in the first means that you're really, really in touch with your Mars. You know, you're projecting it out to other people because the first house is the house of self. And it can definitely make somebody more quick to assert themselves, stick up for their boundaries, but there is the risk of sometimes going overboard too with Mars in the first house. But as long as you kind of watch that and get out your energy and maybe some other physical constructive ways, you know, it can be a good time for that. Then on July 4th, Mars is going to pop into your second house of possessions and finance for the rest of the month and also into the next. And Mars in the second house. Now, second house represents all the things that you own, all the stuff that's important to you, like collectibles, like clothing, like jewelry, your car, all of your things. You know, the second house is underneath the first house, so it really supports you. You know, all the stuff in life that supports your sense of self, which also includes your values too, whether they're spiritual values, political values, or family. So with Mars in the second, you could be feeling very, very driven this month to acquire. Maybe you want to make a little bit more money at work, expand your business. Maybe there's just some like items on your want list that you just want so badly. Like money can just feel like it's burning through your wallet. It can be an okay time for shopping. Just be careful that everything you get has some type of return policy, because Mars in the second can make somebody very impulsive with shopping too. You know, you go about it, you know, if you'd like to, but just check the return policy, be ready to kind of undo something that you might want to do. And Mars in the second, you know, Mars is a planet that can be associated with conflict too. So sometimes that means there could be fights over money or disagreements about values as well. Two other planets that I think are important for you to know about, Aries. I'll also say a few things about Mercury. That's the planet that represents your mind. It's also the planet of communication. And the first few days of the month, it starts in your third house of communication, where you've been probably enjoying a cycle of increased writing, learning, perhaps even more communication with your siblings and cousins, which are ruled by the third house as well. And then on July 4th, same day that Mars changes houses, Mercury's changes houses too. Mercury's going to pop into your fourth house. And when Mercury's in the fourth, where it will be for the rest of the month, the fourth house is the house of family. It's the house of home, and it represents your deep past. So with Mercury in the fourth for the rest of the month, your mind could be very preoccupied on past things. You might be, you know, like one way I could describe this transit is it might bring up a lot of memories into your mind, perhaps. You could also notice that you are talking more or communicating more with your family. Parents are represented by the house, also people that you live with. And then July 16th is a very special date to keep track of, because that's when Mercury is going to be exactly conjoined the sun, meaning in the same space in the sky. And that can be a wonderful time for getting some insights and revelations, especially in fourth house matters. So you could be getting some interesting connections about family in your life. Do I want a family? How do I deal with the family I have? Maybe you're thinking about your housing situation. Should I move? What can I do to make my home more satisfying? Or maybe you are having insights into something that happened a long, long time ago, into your early childhood, and having some type of aha moment about it. And then last, I always love to talk about Venus. People love hearing about Venus too, because she represents our relationships. She's a lucky planet. So everywhere she goes, she adds a little bit of magic and pleasure and luck in your life. And she begins the month in your third house. I mentioned a few things about it earlier, but the third house, it rules your siblings. It rules it also is the house of short journeys. So that means taking little weekend trips, not necessarily going to a different country, but maybe visiting a beach, going on a little road trip. And the third house is the house of communication. So with Venus in here for the first 17 days of the month, great time for getting along well with your siblings, especially since Mercury is sort of hanging out here for the first few days of the month too. It's also a wonderful time to get a lot of pleasure out of writing, especially writing that might be very aesthetic and creative, because Venus has an artistic side to her as well. Or maybe you're just getting along well with your neighbors and enjoying your local surroundings and community. Would be a great time for just like a little potluck with the neighborhood, or anything that connects you to community more. Then on July 17th, Venus is going to go into your fourth house where she's joining Mercury. So a lot of emphasis on that fourth house. With both Mercury and Venus in there, those are two of the most social planets. So, you could be really, really having a lot of sort of more social activity with your family, especially because it's in the middle of the summer. This is usually when people go on vacation. So either you might be going out to see family, or you could be inviting friends and family over to your own home. Venus in the fourth is absolutely great for doing anything nice to make your home more beautiful or more satisfying in some way. And also enjoying relationships at home. Like, this is more of a homebody transit where you and your partner might want to Netflix and chill instead of go out and paint the town red. But yeah, you can get a lot of comfort, a lot of pleasure from your home life during this time, which is wonderful.
So true. So I'm going to tell you about the moons this month, beginning with the full moon in Capricorn right here on July 13th. There's that full moon up here in the 10th house opposite the sun. And that's the nature of a full moon, is that it's always going to be an opposition between the sun and the moon. And that full moon landing in your 10th house is really lighting up your career arena and bringing a lot of passion to it, especially with the proximity of Pluto. This particular moon we call healing with lots of help because of the way that it connects with Chiron, but also, and that's a square, so Chiron is introducing stress in the form of, potentially a healing crisis, but there's lots of help and support from some other planets such as Juno, Neptune, and Uranus during this moon. So you might find that a healing crisis is going on, but there's lots of help and support to fix it. And you might find that this really lands for you in the realm of your work-life balance because of the moon pulling towards your career and making you feel perhaps a little bit of anxiety. Maybe you're not where you want to be, and that feeling of pressure towards pursuing your ambitions and your goals is pulling you away from your home life. And this particular moon might force a crisis that causes you to integrate your home life and your work life in a better, more balanced way. The next moon that I want to tell you about is, actually the next thing I want to tell you about is the seasonal change happening on July 22nd, right here when the sun leaves Cancer and enters Leo, which is your 5th house. So it's a seasonal change, and wherever the sun goes, the sun brings the spotlight of attention. And it's really good to bring your high quality attention to whatever area the sun is traveling through. So in this case, it's the zone of creativity, self-expression, and increasingly I'm viewing this as the house of your personal brand. And so what that means is how you present yourself to the people that you relate with, and how you want to come off, how you want to be seen, and how that feels like it plugs into your authentic center, how that feels like it's a reflection of who you are at the core. And that can even mean, your social media profiles, whether they are, on something more general like Facebook or Instagram, or whether they are more specific, such as OkCupid. So you might even want, while the sun is passing through the fifth house, you might even want to have a better headshot on your social media profiles, so that you're putting your best foot forward in your brand. And suffice it to say, this is also a house of creativity. And with planets gathering there in the second half of the month, there's going to be a real amping up of your own creativity and self-expression. And you might even feel a little performative. You might want to get dressed up and go out and be seen. So then the last thing I want to tell you about is the new moon happens here when the sun comes and joins the moon right here in this fifth house, lighting it up even more. This one we call Seeds of Creativity Can Expand Endlessly. And this is a very creative moon, being in Leo, and it will give you the emotional urge as well as the actional urge to perform, to be seen, to show off, to play. This is a really good moon for playing and being creative. And it has this wonderful harmonious connection to Jupiter built right into it. And that's why it's called Seeds of Creativity Can Expand Endlessly, because the seeds that you plant, the creative seeds that you plant during this particular moon, have a lot of expansion capacity built right into them. You can find out more about this month's moons on our forecast page on our website, pandoraastrology.com. And if anything in this horoscope makes you want a reading, you can look down in the YouTube description to see what kind of reading you should get. And you can just go to our website and look in the readings tab there at pandoraastrology.com. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye-bye.
Bye.